ሰላም ዶክተር ጋሻ አመሰግናለሁ። ይታያል የኔ ስክሪን?
ይታያል። አዎ ይታያል።
ኦኬ። ሰላም ለሁላችሁም። ይሄንን እድል ስለሰጣችሁኝ አመሰግናለሁ። በተለይ ደግሞ እንደ አማራ ያለብንን ክፍተት ተመልክታችሁ ላለፉት ዓመታት ብዙ ደክማችሁ ይሄንን የመሰለ ተቋም በመመስረታችሁ በጣም ደስ ይለኛል። ማመስገን እፈልጋለሁ እንደ አንድ በአማራ ጉዳይ ላይ እንደሚንቀሳቀስ ግለሰብ አመሰግናለሁ። ይሄን ካልኩ ዘንዳ ዛሬ በተሰጠኝ ርዕስ ላይ የተወሰኑ ማስታወሻዎችን ለመናገር እሞክራለሁ። ሙሉ ሪሰርች ያደረግኩበት አይደለም። ከጊዜው ጥረት አኳያ በተቻለው መጠን መናገር ያለብኝና ያህል የሰበሰብኩት ኢንፎርሜሽን ነው። አንዳንዱን በእርግጥ የተወሰኑትን ሀሳቦች ቅድም ዶክተር ጋሻው ከጠቀሰው ድራፍት መጽሐፍ ላይ ድራፍቱ ያለቀ መጽሐፍ ነው። ዲዘርቴሽኑን ነው ወደ መጽሐፍ የቀየርኩት። ከዛ ውስጥ የወሰድኳቸው ሀሳቦች አሉ፣ እንዲሁ ደግሞ የፈላለኳቸውም አሉ። እሱን አጋራለሁ፣ ግን ኮምፕሊት እንዳልሆነ አድሚት ማድረግ እፈልጋለሁ። ኮምፕሊት የሆነ አመለካከት እንዳልሆነ፣ ዌል ፎርምድ የሆነ አመለካከት እንዳልሆነ፣ ግን ወደፊት ደግሞ መዳበር እንዳለበት በዚሁ አድሚት አድርጌ መጀመር እፈልጋለሁ። ታንኪዩ። The overview of the Amhara intellectuals. There is lack of scholarly attention to mobilize the Amhara, and there have been a proliferation of anti-Amhara forces, anti-Amhara ideologies, and the result was marginalization and genocide. Various political groups labeled Amhara as the enemy of the non-Ethiopian nationalities and consequently exposed them for genocide and all sorts of suffering. Unfortunately, the Amhara scholars failed to articulate the necessity of identity-based Amhara movement to respond to the imminent dangers we've been facing. And I would like to share you one important historic event that happened in the evening of 1973. I found the story from the book Man Nagare Nebere by Brahanu Asres. So the story goes back to the Jazmach Sahayunku Selassie, who was the governor of Gojam province then, and he was aware of the coming danger to the Amhara because the students' movement and various factions at the time were targeting the Amhara and blaming for all the problems of the Ethiopian state encountered. So the story goes like this. And I'm reading this from my book draft. In 1973, it became clear that the monarchical rule in Ethiopia was coming to an end. The same time had also brought a very concerning problem to the Amhara, which was at the grasping sight of some authorities around the empire. Although too late, these authority figures have begun to create some sort of organization aimed at defending the people of Amhara. One of the most Jazmach Sahayunku Selassie, former governor of Gojam province, Sahayunku Selassie had a very clear understanding of the looming danger of the students' movement and factional groups' ideologies that defined the Amhara as a national oppressor group. As part of the ruling class, Sahayu himself was at risk on 3 levels. To the Marxist-Leninists, he was a member of the bourgeois class as well as an Amhara oppressor nation. And to the Eritrean separatists, he belonged to the government that colonized Eritrea. In the midst of this chaotic period, Sahayu would gather some of his friends at his house for dinner, mainly from Gondar province, whom he believed that had strong public support to ward off the looming anti-Amhara forces. Sahayu broke the silence and said, this is a translation of mine, famous quote, Amarangat Wandino. From now on, the forces that are coming to capture power will not make a distinction between us as that of Shoa, Gondar, Gojam, and Wollo. They will instead attack us as Amhara only. Therefore, whether we like it or not, we must recognize that we are only one Amhara with a common destiny. So we must unite and organize. That unfaithful evening revealed a rethinking of the Amhara identity, the urge to create an awareness of the dangers creeping around, and the revisiting of organizing in terms of their ethnic identity. Unfortunately, it took decades to achieve these missions, mainly because the Amhara elites chose to stick to organizing under the ideal of all Ethiopia. It took 5 decades to realize that Ethiopia's political atmosphere did not allow Ethiopia-level national organization. So this is the story. And that elite, that Amhara elite, was very aware, but I think he was the lonely man, the last conscious Amhara of that generation. I mean, from the class, the upper class. Now I turn to Ethiopia's state system as Amhara selective melting pot. The problem with the current problem Amhara entangled with goes back to the way the Ethiopian state was formed. There was forced abandonment of Amhara ethnic identity in favor of Ethiopian national identity, and the consequences of this process. It was only the Amhara that melted. The rest did not. Post-World War II, Oromia, Tigray, Eritrea, and Sidama ethnic intellectuals furthered on politicizing their ethnic identities on the assumption of fighting against the Amhara oppressive nationality. Political ideologies then formed targeting the Amhara people and culture. Non-Amhara groups worked hard to dismantle the foundations of Ethiopian history, culture, and territory, blaming it as Amhara system of domination. But the Amhara elites failed to form a kind of resistance, resisting organization or mobilization. Historical context of Amhara lacking protective forces and the resulting vulnerabilities. The year 1991 marked the era of Amhara genocide, yet Amhara scholars failed to alert the people. The late Professor Asrat mobilized all Amhara People's Organization. Sadly, the Amhara intellectuals denied him support and chose to observe him idly, sometimes attacking him as racist or ethnocentric or backward. Then, this organization was converted into All Ethiopian People's Organization, and that was a betrayal to the Amhara organization and the Amhara community. The Amhara genocide continued. Amhara intellectuals chose to ignore the problems. Some of them marched behind the late Professor Mesfin Woldemariam, who was an ardent proponent of or the ideologue of denying the existence of Amhara ethnic identity. And then they ignored and betrayed Professor Asrat Woldeyes, who was advocate for the Amhara plights. So that was termed as intellectual laziness. So when it comes to understanding the questions and problems of Amhara, understanding them and scholarly protecting the Amhara identity, history, heritage, and security, the history of the Amhara intellectuals can be understood as complete failure. Yet, since the last 5 to 7 years, there has been the resuscitation of or the resurrection of Amhara nationalism. And this Amhara nationalism was started by younger scholars and students, PhD students. One of them was myself, who participated forming the modern nationalism. Since then, we have some works, some articles that targeted understanding Amhara issues and explaining some of them. Due to lack of time, I may not read all of them, but you can see on the screen as much as you can. So within these 5 years, there's small progress that the young Amhara scholars are coming to the front and publishing and writing about the Amhara. The next topic I want to emphasize that the Amhara genocide was the fruit of antagonizing discourses that goes back to the Italian colonial ambition. The Italians divided Ethiopia into two. On the one side, they put Amhara, put all blames on them, and labeled them as colonizers, oppressors, exploiters, and dominators. And on the other hand was the rest of Ethiopian ethnic groups who were educated, or the Italians made propaganda about that they should stand firm and fight against the Amhara system of oppression. So the present genocide and suffering goes back to this Italian era discourses, antagonizing discourses. And there's evolution of these discourses. And over the years, they become worse and worse. And in the process, the Amhara scholars didn't do much about it. They just ignored the problems, and then they watch idle, or they chose to focus on Ethiopian identity, which couldn't solve the perennial problems the Amhara faced. So I would like to provide final remarks about the relationship between intellectuals and the Amhara people. So the exception should be made is that the last 5 years have witnessed some developments, especially the young scholars, and we need to keep in mind that. So the relationship between Amhara intellectuals and the people of Amhara, in my view, is kind of hostile, disassociated, betrayal, selfishness, short-sightedness, pretenders or hypocrisy, ignorance, lack of reality check or assessment, insecurity, disinterest to rural Amhara issues, twisted idea of modernity or Zerlegaberi, for example, servitude to power or authorities. These are the kind of phrases that could define, especially the majority Amhara intellectuals who led or who didn't do anything when the Amhara have been evolutionary, passing through a trajectory of being exposed to genocide. And then the other point is why Amhara scholars' contribution to the Amhara nationality is so limited. One of the reasons is the way Ethiopian state is built, the melting pot approach. The Amhara gave away their ethnic identity to Ethiopian national identity. There's a general apathy or ambivalence to Amhara identity, self-hatred to Amhara identity, scholarly laziness to Amhara issues. Ethiopianist ideology nears theocratic, like salvationist ideology that overshadowed the Amhara identity, the importance of organizing Amhara based on their identity. The Amhara scholars lagged behind all Amhara questions and sufferings. Professor Asrat was a lonely scholar in his time, inability to mobilize the population to new emerging realities, and lack of adaptability to realities, and choosing to live in non-pragmatic world. And there's recent developments. We have seen that there's some hope, some kind of hope. And in the end, I would like to put some recommendations for increasing scholarly involvement in Amhara issues, redefining the Ethiopian state system, and promoting Amhara identity, culture, and political economy. These are the key points that we need to address from now on. So I would like to call upon Amhara scholars to focus on these issues, like they need to present the Amhara political economy and must depart from the traditional ignorance that made Amhara look like a perennial poor group of people. They need to be educated about the resources they are blessed with and the potential of growth with these resources at our disposal. And the scholars need to pay adequate attention to carve a political system that will not betray Amhara again and expose for genocide. They need to write as to how we bring about permanent solutions to the Amhara security, development, and peace. This requires a departure from the blindfold work our past intelligentsia worked on, underline the benefit of advancing Amhara nationalism as it gives these benefits. It serves as a cohesive force, organized self-defense and source of security, usage of resources and fast development, communal integration, cultural protection, prevent from a communal disintegration that will expose for genocide like we see it today, interconnectedness and appreciation of ethnic belongingness with identity consolidation and protection of heritage, to build infrastructure, to establish democratic system, not it is tested and failed that we cannot create a democratic order within the highly ethnicized Ethiopian political environment. And this nationalism will offer us international recognition, national strengths in the events aggression from near and in the events of aggression from near and afar, collectively remember and get the lesson for our future generation about the genocidal paths we are working through. Thank you very much for listening to me.